think that's right. Are you there, Lucas? Do I have a Lucas?
You do have a Lucas. Hello.
Oh, excellent. Oh God. I've just realised because I've not like done the podcast in so long. Like, how the fuck did I set up my screen to get everything I need on there? Like, get the chat on, get you on, so I can actually see and make sure the audio's still recording.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember how I did it.
Magic, Karl.
I'm honestly struggling to figure out how the fuck I did this. Like, I can't even get chat on screen.
A hope and a prayer.
I think that's how most of our like content works. It's like we don't really know what we're doing, but like we figured it. Like someone's out there is enjoying it. So I'm pretty sure I'm live. So. I think I am. I hope I am. If I'm not, and well, fuck me.
I guess
I suppose that's the thing. I'm so bad at it. I'm so rusty because I've had like not a week off, but I've just been so like eclectic in the times I've gone live. But how are you doing, Monfrere?
Yeah, doing well, yeah. And like, as you alluded to, like we didn't podcast last week just because last week when we normally record, I was on the way to come to the office to see you and record other things.
Yeah, that was like the first time we recorded in person in 18 months for myself and you.
Yeah.
Me and Nisha recorded together like once or twice during the pandemic. Like she came over, she wore a mask. And people really didn't like that for some reason. Strangers living their life really pissed off some like elements of the internet, and that should just be. They should just write that when you sign up to the internet. Do when you get like Virgin or whatever, when you get your internet provider, they should just send you a notice just saying you are going to piss off, no doubt men.
Oh yeah.
By doing something that you see as innocuous. Are you prepared for this? And that innocuous thing can be as simple as wearing a mask to safeguard yourself from a pandemic.
Or even just tweeting out you like something.
Oh, yeah. Would you ever see that? It was
simple.
There's been so many stories of that, and it's always weird men yelling at a woman. And
always,
the one that sticks out in mind for me is like a girl who was watching the Star Wars for the first time. Because as weird as it's going to sound, there are people out there who've never seen Star Wars. Like, it's been around, in pop culture for 40 years. A lot of people just haven't watched it. And she just one day started tweeting about, I'm watching Star Wars. Never seen it before. It's pretty good. I'm going to live tweet myself just going through the trilogy. Although the old trilogies over the course of a weekend. And because she ended up liking the new trilogy the most, because it's the newer one and it has better action. They're better made from like a technical standpoint. Yeah. You can argue about like the quality of the writing, but like no, they're better films.
They're produced better.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I can imagine that just being a shit storm on the internet.
It was for her, yeah. Poor lady. I think you told me once about, was it a games reviewer, or she's like a internet personality? It was, yeah, I'm not going to tweet out about my favorite games of the year because weird men always yell at me. And then weird men yelled at her saying, "No, we don't."
It's like you've proven my point without me even needing to tweet what the games are.
Yeah, but for the people watching my stream live, thank you for tuning in. First of all, and someone's asked, why is Zagreus from Hades in the corner? That's because I'm going to be streaming Hades. Not directly after this podcast has finished recording, but I'm going to take a 10-15 minute break and stream some Hades because I adore that game. It's made it onto Game Pass. I'm just excited to play it again. Because me and you were we try to do this thing called synergy.
We're trying.
Yeah, because we often work together, but we also work separately. And this is something that's one of those. It happens on the internet a lot, and there's always people read into it more than they probably should. So, do you want to clarify right now? We are still friends, yes?
Oh, are we?
We're still friends.
Broke up, Karl.
We're still making content together. It's just that we're now making content separately as well, and we're going to each be leaning into that.
Yeah, because I'm very conscious of the fact that, say for example, Paul can't stream one weekend because he's going away or something. Yes. And every single stream I've done for ever is got Karl on it. Pretty much people are going to be like, where the fuck's Karl? So yeah, you need to do that thing where it's not just that we're building a brand together, we're building our own separate brands as well. And it's
yeah, and obviously you don't want to be tethered to me and vice versa. You don't want, let's say, if you want to make a video or you want to record some content or just stream a game.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to be like, oh, Karl has to be there. By the same token, there's stuff that I want to do that you obviously, well, not obviously, but you might not want to be involved with as well. Or you might be busy spending time with yourself. But it happens so often in regards to internet personalities where any deviation from the norm, people automatically assume the worst.
it's like, oh my god, like why aren't they streaming together? Do they hate each other now?
Have they fallen out?
Mm-hmm.
No, we live our lives. And it reminds me a little bit of the Chuckle Brothers. Like, rip in peace to Barry Chuckle. But for Americans who don't know, the Chuckle Brothers were a pair of children's entertainers, like staples of British pop culture. Like, I think the term national treasure refers to the Chuckle Brothers.
Just in general, that's it.
And as you might imagine, them being brothers and their whole stage persona being that they're brothers, people just assume that they always hung out together. And they did. They like very famously, spent almost all of their time together because the brothers they've worked together all this time. But there was a story a couple of years ago where it was framed as them having an argument and being like divas, where they were booked for an event and complained that they didn't have a hotel room each. And it was them. Oh, are the Chuckle Brothers breaking up? They want a separate room each.
Human adults that want a separate fucking room. Like,
what? Well, I think it was Paul Chuckle who summed it up best when he was asked about it. He went, I don't think there's anyone out there who find it weird that two 60-year-old men want to stay in separate bedrooms. But like the news, are the Chuckle Brothers arguing? Like they're demanding separate rooms? Like, no, they just don't want to stop in the same room as each other because they're like 60, or they were at the time.
Oh god, like I would find it, similarly weird. I know we're not brothers, but like if you and I say someone wanted us to go to an event, it's like, right, we've booked you one bedroom. Like, what? No, like please don't do that. Like, I'm mates with Karl, but it's a bit weird when you're like, no, I'm gonna book you in like a nice double bedroom. Get some candles on the pillows for it's like, no.
I just thought that was like a good way of encapsulating though, like because people in their head assume that they must spend all their time together. The news of them wanting to have separate hotels, well, they must not be friends anymore. They must not, but it's like no, they just want to stay. Like they don't spend every waking moment together.
And yeah, like that I guess segues a little bit into what I'm doing, which is after you're streaming Hades, I'm going to be streaming Destiny 2 because like the new season's out and stuff. And I think that's a perfect example of like we tried doing a bit of a Destiny 2 stream together, and like you've got nothing against the game, it's just not for you kind of thing. And I really want to stream that, but I don't want to be in a situation where I can never stream Destiny because like Karl's like, oh well, I'm not that big a fan of it.
Yeah, but I just wanted to like just get that out of the way first because it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. It really is.
It's like on the channel we constantly get comments of where's Brad, and it's like he edited the video you commented on. I've had that before. Oh, where's? It's like he edited the video that you are commenting on right fucking now. Like, how do you not watch the videos? You evidently are a fan of them, but not enough to pay attention to who helped make them.
Yeah, not enough to just read that fact bar below. It just says that, like, yeah, Brad literally edited this. And I know it doesn't say Brad literally edited this.
You might as well. Might have to start telling him to start adding that shit to each one. It's like, I edited it. I'm right here.
Hello. But yeah, like, how's your week been, Karl?
My week's been not really done out. I got back from that weekend we spent together, in that hotel we shared, and we did spend the weekend together with other people as well. It was just a big group. We had a big cuddle puddle with a bunch of our friends.
We did, yeah.
And I just got back and I've been recovering.
I
tried to catch up with everything because I drank so much beer that weekend. So I've been just going to the gym and trying to just undo some of the damage I did to my internal organs with all that alcohol and pizza.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend's coming back from America on Saturday, so I also need to get the house sorted for her.
Oh, I thought you'd just be like, I need to get fit for her. I need to get fit and ready.
I'm going to try my best, but yeah, I'm just been doing all that then at the office. Yeah. Working, making content.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? When I'm like, well, I last spoke to Karl 3 days ago. It's like, well,
you last spoke to me about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, literally, we were recording some Final Fantasy.
Like you last spoke to me about an hour and a half ago, so it's like there's not really much we can say to catch up. But have you been up to anything this week, Monfrere?
Well,
or is there anything that you particularly like to talk about?
Today, I did go to make adjustments to, like, my vision. I went for an eye test, and
oh, did you?
I'm gonna, yeah, because I haven't been for like a few years, and especially with the amount of like screen time I have. Like, it's not great for your eyes and stuff. So just went and like my prescriptions like needs to be updated. So I'm gonna have like fresh eyes again from next week. Well, my eyes won't be fresh,
but you're gonna get
like
some new stuff.
I'll be able to see the TV fully again.
Right, you've paid all that money for a HD TV,
4K.
but your eyes don't see in HD.
Last thing is like my eyes can't keep up with 4K right now. Needs just get all of those pixels in my face.
I hope I'm remembering this correctly, but isn't it like impossible to get any like better than 4K? Because haven't like people making the TV said like the only way you can even appreciate 4K is if you've got a 90-inch screen or you sit 30 centimeters away from it.
Yeah, and
obviously
like,
we're at the limit of basically we're at the limit of TV technology of how good the quality can be.
Well, we're not, because like 8K TVs are coming out, but I think we're at the limit where like we are the limit of necessity of TV technology
of what the human eye can even comprehend.
What resolution a TV realistically needs to be, because when you're sitting like 6 to 10 foot away, say on your sofa, maybe further, hopefully not closer than 6 feet. That's a bit much. But like, when you're that far away from a TV, like as you say, it needs to be a ridiculous size at like 4K or 8K for you to be able to tell the difference.
Even notice, and I love the idea that with that's it, we're done.
But then it's like they have to do other things where.
Well, they're gonna they need to find a way to like make you buy the next one.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the idea of like, I don't know if you've seen this, but concepts of just all of like the foldable screens, and the idea
that's whenever I see that, I always think that looks awesome. That's never happening.
But I like
the prototypes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a while before like any of this realistically could become consumer tech. But like the idea was like, oh look, we've got a big sheet of like thin paper like glass that we just rolled up, and then you can just like stick it to your wall, and it's a big ass TV. It's like, that sounds awesome, but then how long is it going to be that A, we can develop that, B, for a reasonable price, and C, get your fucking like Xbox hooked up to it, or like
and then
Switch
as well,
or whatever.
At what point are we going to be able to like sell that for commercial use?
Yeah.
At what point is it going to be like economically viable to sell that to random people?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the question. Yeah, it's going to be a very long time, and there's always like huge leaps in technology that people are like, oh, this is the future. So, well, that's the future in 20 years. Now, it's like, remember when carbon nanotubes were a huge thing, and everyone's like, these are going to change the world. And when's the last time you ever heard anyone talk about like carbon nanotubes?
That when you see all like the weird cars, isn't it? Like,
like concept cars, like this is what cars are going to look like in the future. And then you look and like, what do modern cars look like? They still look like cars. They just look slightly smoother.
Yeah, and I saw one, I think it was like a Mercedes, where it's like, this car can crawl sideways, and it's got like crazy gyrating tires with like LEDs coming out of them that can glow and expand and stuff, and then they can turn sideways and crawl your car. And I'm like, okay, people get pissed off that they have to replace like a regular £100 tire.
Yeah.
Imagine like the money you're spending on a car like that, and then getting told like, yeah, well, these are like custom Mercedes tires that we only that we've only been making.
Well, that's
for
the future
they
want. They want you to be stuck in their ecosystem. But I think probably the coolest concept I've known for a car is from the film I, Robot. And you know what? They have all the Audis in that. Like they have those wheels, the round wheels where they can go sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Because they asked Audi, "What do you think cars going to look like in 2030?" So when they like agreed to sponsor the film, one of the things that they asked them to do is, we want you to get your best like prototype engineers and ask them to imagine what they think cars will look like in the time the movie's set. And that was their theory.
And I really like the cars in that movie, to be fair.
They look super cool, and they have like the round wheels that can go any direction.
Yeah.
So they don't spin out. So they basically have like 4-wheel drive, but they have like omnidirectional movement.
It's like, realistically though, Karl, you don't need that when you could just have the Men in Black car and just go the back like upside down in the tunnel.
See, like, that's cool, but it's not realistic. One of the things I like about sci-fi is that sci-fi, like some early sci-fi, has actually had the technology it puts forward as stuff we're going to discover in hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's outpaced by the shit I've got on my phone. Like, my iPhone is better than the shit they have in Star Trek. Like the stuff they have in Star Trek to communicate is worse than my iPhone, or it's less ergonomically designed, and that's set like 400 years in the future.
Yeah, and then you get it where like even not necessarily like that much into the future, where you get the moment of Back to the Future 2, where they go to the future.
And he's got the hoverboard, and everyone's
people are
super
like,
sorry
"Oh,
we've
well,
not
we
got a
never got
hoverboard.
self-lacing shoes, and we never got a hoverboard." It's like, but you
We've
did
got
get a
iPhones.
personal computer that's linked to the internet that can give you any information like you would ever need to know or any time.
Which I would argue is a more impressive feat of technological advancement, that they've shrunk down computers, which used to take up entire rooms and cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're now a consumer grade device that you can buy.
Yeah, and imagine like the world where all of the R&D that went into like mobile phone technology instead
Went into
phones were
skateboards.
the same. They went into hoverboards and self-lacing shoes. It's
Yeah.
like, I think I know which world I want to live in.
Yeah, and
The
which
one
one's
with
like,
hoverboards, Carl.
the self-tying shoes thing, they're a thing.
Yeah, because Nike Nike that made like
They
a big
made
push
some.
to like make sure that by that year we had the
They made,
self-lacing shoes. Yeah,
and I think they did do like the Back to the Future tie-in, like Reeboks or something. They were like classic high tops, and they saw like 40 of them. It's like
but they
great.
didn't look exactly like the ones in the movie. So what's the fucking point?
Yeah, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
So when Space Jam came out, like that new Space Jam movie, and they released like, oh yeah, they redesigned the fucking Toon Squad jersey. And we've seen how fucking shit that looks.
Yep.
And like, the old Toon Squad one, just white jersey with the big thing in the middle, Toon Squad.
It looks
The
so
new
much
one,
better.
the new one, just like all bright and colourful. Oh, it looks so shit.
And even as somebody that really likes bright and colourful stuff, that design looks bad.
No, it's just a bad design.
Yeah.
Joe, it's a good design though. The redesigned Lola Bunny. Speaking of like Joe, weird internet men, did you see that?
No.
Oh, okay, this is going to be a good one. So just right now, you've got a computer in front of you, haven't you?
I do.
Or
Yeah.
do you just remember what Lola Bunny looked like?
I remember what Lola Bunny looked like. I watch Space Jam like every year. So
Yeah, and then have you seen Lola Bunny in the new ones? Just type in Lola Bunny, Space Jam,
I
New
saw
Legacy.
the first trailer for the second Space Jam.
Just have a look though. She's undergone like somewhat of a redesign, and you'll be seeing the one where she's got like, I think she's wearing like the LeBron armband. That's the one you'll see.
The LeBron armband.
Yeah, because he wears like a
sleeve.
One of those compression bands for his arm.
Yeah, I see that one.
Like she's wearing one of them. Like it's a really neat redesign, isn't it? She looks more sporty.
I mean, she definitely looks more sporty. Yeah, I don't like any of the Looney Tunes characters in this 3D animation style. They look really
but like
weird to me. But yeah,
but her design's like, it's a pretty good one, isn't it?
Like the design itself is fine. Yeah.
Men on the internet complained because they made her bust and ass smaller.
Of course.
Because they wanted the sexy rabbit lady.
And literally, I think, the second picture that I can find on Google Images here, when I just search Lola Bunny Space Jam 2, that's all I search.
Yep.
Is an image from an article, Lola Bunny's desexualized Space Jam 2 redesign sparks intense debate. It's like, why are we arguing about the desexualization of a rabbit, an animated rabbit?
Yeah, a cartoon rabbit in a film for children. But the amount of like vitriol directed at the film's like, this is ruining my childhood. It's like your childhood was wanking over a rabbit.
It did awaken many things in many people, Carl.
It did, but at the same time, I like that redesign of her character. It looks really awesome.
Like, yeah, like all it is it's similar to like the Tifa redesign.
Which is, again, incredible, because it grounds it more.
It's just, hey, guess what? Like, women can wear sporty attire and make, like, when Tifa is running around doing backflips with dolphins, it's like, it probably makes sense to give her a sports bra and not just a t-shirt.
Of course, she'd be wearing one. And it's just really funny, the amount of men who get really annoyed about that sort of thing. It's like, you could just Google this, right? If you want to have bigger tits, you can just go online and Google that. There's probably someone out there.
Many things about Lola Bunny, I'm sure, on the internet with 20 years practice.
What made it so funny for me is when that happened, because I followed it to a degree, because I thought it was really funny. The amount of people who were doing it, like with their accounts with their names on it. Like they're posting it publicly with accounts with their name and face on it, and it's like, I aspire to have that level of either confidence or arrogance.
Like, yeah, because that's the thing is, you know what? If I was one of these people that was really, really upset by this redesign, and I really, like, to the point where I needed to complain about it online, I would be doing that under, like, the most anonymous account possible.
No,
like, oh, God. It's a
you've got
ballsy
Lucas.
tactic.
You have to do it publicly under your real name. People have got to know.
To be fair, I respect the level of commitment. Like, I'm not going to hide my shame. I would be out there, face up, and just go, no, Lola Bunny needs to be more sexy.
And here's the thing, Lucas. Is there a character whose design you would like die on the hill for in that regard? Because I know, like me and you, feel very strong about the Captain Falcon ass
That is true.
nerf. Just because
that was
it's
a
so
tough
funny.
day.
Yeah, just because it's so funny. So do you want to explain that to people?
Yeah, so when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate either was released or trailers were shown and whatnot, it was probably like teaser images on the website because Sakurai does that a lot. People noticed that like male and female characters who had like, you know, perky butts in the last game have had them just like nerfed. Like they're just the cardboard now. Oh god, no, Carl's camera's gone. But yeah, I'll try and keep going while Carl's dead. But yeah, like it was weird in the sense that like I remember Captain Falcon and specifically.
Sorry. You cut out for a second there, mate.
Oh, you cut out for me. Okay.
Oh, okay. So let's just try that again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you start. I think you started just like explain the Captain Falcon ass nerf.
I was, yeah, and I was just talking about how Snake specifically, people got up in arms about Snake because they were like, that man does so much squatting and crawling around. Like he's got an ass for days, and then you look in Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it like the comparison is actually kind of crazy how much they just took all of the meat out of those buns.
And the one for me as well, like whenever stuff like this happens, you always get the weird men arguing like for the women, like oh the women got redesigned. But with like I said, with Snake, it made sense that he had a massive round mound behind him because all he does, he walks around in the squat position 90% of the time. It makes sense. It fits his character to have that giant round ass.
And like I imagine Captain Falcon does between bounty hunts is like train. So again, it makes fucking sense.
Well, his job is sitting on his ass all day, so of course he's going to want it to be as muscular as possible, just in case he needs to, like, you know, jump out of the Blue Falcon at absolute max speed.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you need it as thick as you can because you just need a bit of clearance for like if F-Zero cars crash. Just like you need the ass to just protect.
And it's just, as you mentioned, they did it to like I think like every character in the game just to make them.
I believe like a good example is Bayonetta for the women. It was both sides of it, yeah.
Yeah, but the men didn't complain about Captain Falcon's arse nerf. They only complained about the women. And it's like, no,
the internet is, as general, to be fair, complained about Snake.
The Snake one's really fun, but that's the thing. Like, can you think of any other example where it's like a man got a nerf? I can't. That's really interesting.
There's probably a lot of examples that nobody whined about on the internet, so nobody. That's
the thing. There probably is many examples of this, but the fact no one complained means that he probably flew under the radar. And I'd be really intrigued to know like, if there were other like male redesign decisions that have just like completely gone without any sort of controversy because weird men on the internet don't complain about that sort of thing. And I am wondering like how much stuff actually slips underneath people's notice because those weirdos don't complain.
Yeah. And like, I literally can't think of an example with men, but the amount of like redesigns Cloud and Sephiroth have had, like, there must be at some point like they made Cloud's arm smaller or something.
I think they made him bigger. Like with every passing year, they make Cloud bigger.
But no,
it's other things like every single passing, like every time they redesign those characters, they just get more and more sculpted.
That's true, and they get more and more like belt chains attached to them and zippers everywhere.
I love when they get more belts. I love the idea of just adding belts to a character, and it just adds more just depth to their character.
I love the idea that just like at some point, somebody designing those characters for like Kingdom Hearts had to go, that's not enough belts. It's not enough. Oh, he's got one on. Yeah, but that's not enough. I need more belts.
That's what I'm a really big fan of, like character design that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I love when a character's design is not realistic to like our world, but to realistic to the world they live in.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons I quite like Final Fantasy X. With the only character that game really doesn't make sense is Lulu, because she has the belts. She has like the
Oh,
dress of
right.
belt.
Okay. I thought
But like
you were going to say because she's like a bunny person, but I was like, isn't that because that's a race of people in that world?
that's not in. I think that's like 11 or 9.
Or 12?
Either way, there is like a rabbit person in one of the games.
Yeah, but I believe that's because like that is a race, and that's a race you can like pick in Final Fantasy 14 online as well.
Something like that, yeah. But in 10, like people often make fun of Tidus's design. It's like, 'cause he has like the weird like 3/4 length trousers. He has like one knee covered and then one knee not.
Oh, okay.
It's like, but he's like a future sportsman, and his thing is like, it's an underwater sport.
Mm-hmm.
So he's wearing stuff like gives him maximum mobility, but he needs to protect it like one leg. Do the same way that you get like baseball players, they wear the helmets with one thing on the side to protect that one ear, because that's the one that faces towards the plate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. It's that thing of like, no, he needs that one knee to have like, some sort of protection on it, because that's the one he's gonna be using in the clash.
I'm the same with another Final Fantasy character when you were pointed out to me with Cloud, where like the reason he only has one pauldron is because like getting that sword from behind his back, that the like pauldron would get in the way on that arm.
Yeah.
But then he just like puts them both together on his other arm for protection.
So if people go look at Cloud's design from Final Fantasy VII, you'll see that he has like a weird bolted on pauldron on either his left or his right shoulder. I forget which. And that's because he took the pauldron off the other shoulder and just bolted it to that one. So it allows him to draw the Buster Blade more conveniently.
Yep.
And they show you in, I think it's Crisis Core, they show one of the characters who, like Angeal, who originally wielded it. You don't even need shoulder pauldrons when you're using the Buster Sword, because it's so massive you can just pull it up slightly and use it to protect your arms. And he has a bit where someone hits him with a sword, and he pulls the Buster Sword up like at 1 inch, and because it's so fucking massive, it's basically just like it stops the sword hitting him there.
Oh, okay, yeah. And that was one that like I really got like a nice moment out of.
Someone put more effort into it. Like someone thought about it more than they didn't just put it on because it looked cool, even though it does. They put it on because it makes sense and there's an explanation for why it's there.
But I was gonna bring up another one where like in Destiny 2, one of the characters, Zavala, he has like one of his shoulder pads is like a giant chunk of plate metal.
Okay.
And it's like, well, that makes no sense. Like, why is that such a big, stupid, like, shoulder pad? Like, that totally gets in your way and limits your mobility and stops you aiming with your gun as well. And then in one cutscene, he uses it to, like, block bullets. And it's like, yeah, yes,
okay.
It's a big shield.
Now it makes sense.
Like, yeah. And it's
just like,
love that moment.
Can you think of any more examples of like weird character design decisions that are actually like explained or have like reasoning? Like Cloud's like weird one pauldron. It's like you have the one like Raiden in Metal Gear Solid. Revengeance, where he has like the bandage over one eye. Yeah. They explain in story that's not a bandage, that is fabric covered in cameras. It's because cameras in that universe are so small, it's futuristic as fuck, that it's a bandage covered in hundreds and hundreds of cameras to give him full 360-degree view of his environment.
That's cool, yeah. And,
rather than give him a cybernetic, they didn't have time to give him a cybernetic eye, and it looks cool.
But yeah, that's the same world where obviously.
And then we've got
MGS4 where he's got the weird Octo camo suit, and it's like, if that tech exists, then I understand. Yeah.
And then he has the Raiden has high heels. It's like, why is Raiden wearing high heels? And it's because he catches the sword in his high heels when he's breakdancing. Yeah. It's like, it's so stupid, but at least they explain why he's wearing high heels.
And
that's the thing of like, how is it that Raiden as a robot has more justification for wearing high heels than any woman?
Not
in
Bayonetta.
In any fighting game. Well, Bayonetta, yeah. She's the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah. Not Bayonetta, because her high heels have just got like the fucking guns attached to them. Like, yeah.
Isn't that weird though? You think that there's always those characters like they give women high heels for absolutely no reason, and it's never explained why. But with Metal Gear, in Metal Gear Revengeance, like the most stupid ass game. It's like a robot punching people for 6 hours straight. They give an in-canon explanation for why he has high heels.
Well, that's like one character I can think of where just needless high heels seems to be Nina Williams from Tekken, where it's like, yeah, she's a femme fatale. I get the stereotype, that still means that she's got to kick people's ass in like 6-inch heels.
Yeah, it only makes sense for Anna Williams because sexuality is part of her character, where like she is actively taking advantage of her sexuality to lure in men, and she's a
Right,
fashionista.
okay.
It makes no sense, like I said, for Nina Williams, who's supposed to be like, an assassin. So why would an assassin wear anything that limits their mobility?
Yeah. And, I just for some reason I thought of Nina Williams, and then I got really angry because I thought about Resident Evil 5 Jill Valentine's design. It's like, no,
oh god, were they made a blonde
one with like the
why
bug
did
attached
why
to her breasts? That's
did they ever explain why they made a blonde?
Means her chest's got to be because Karl, blondes are sexier apparently.
Yeah, I was wondering, was there ever any like in-canon explanation for why Jill turned blonde after she turned evil?
Wesker mind controlled her and went, no, we are blondes in this family, Jill. We are blondes.
Is it to make it look more like Wesker?
Maybe. It was like turn her to the Aryan side, Karl.
It's very strange because like that's one of the weirder like redesigns. Because I would have get it if they put her in like the weird suit, but like she's wearing like the weird skin tight suit that also has high heels on it.
That also has like her chest open.
Yeah,
have the weird mind control bug.
It makes no sense.
Do you know? Put the mind control bug on like her back or on her neck or something. Like that's the back of the neck. Like a lot of people go for that. Like
put something over it to protect it. Maybe.
Yeah.
If it's the only thing that's going to stop her from attacking. If people don't know what we're talking about in Resident Evil 5, there's like a character who is presumed dead at the start of the game, Jill Valentine. So from like the second game, where she has probably one of the strongest designs of any female character in gaming.
First game, right?
The first one. Oh, sorry. First Resident Evil 2 is Leon, isn't it? Yeah.
Leon.
Resident Evil 2, where it's the beret.
Yeah, the beret.
And she's a member of STARS, Special Tactics, and something or other bollocks, isn't it?
Reconnaissance simplification. I don't know.
Something, but she's part of Special Forces, and she just wears a military uniform, complete with the beret. And then for absolutely no reason, they're like, "No, what? No, fuck it. Put her in high heels and a cat suit." It's like, why? Why did you need to do like? What does this do?
That maybe after like Wesker just captured her and mind controlled her, he was like, I'm gonna live out my little fantasy here. Got to be blonde. She's got to be. No, that's
the person who designed the character.
Yeah,
did that
exactly.
It's just embarrassing, isn't it? It's the I use that word a lot to describe these decisions. Like it's embarrassing that you thought people would like this. Because that's the thing. Like, if anyone's like in the mind to like think, oh no, you're just complaining for the sake of it. The people making these games think you're that stupid. They think you're a horny teenager.
And
so if you
the
like
reasoning behind it.
So if you like respect video games as an art form and want to be respected as one, stuff like that should piss you off because it's actively damaging that view of it.
And it's that weird thing, isn't it? Of like, oh well, no, they just wanted to make her like look different. It's like, but they could have made her look different in a lot of ways that didn't mean that Chris Redfield has to jump on her chest and rip a bug out of her like boobs, essentially.
Yeah, as she moans and writhes around in ecstasy.
It's like there's a lot of design decisions that would have meant that didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's like stuff like that is to video games like what exploitation movies in the 80s were to film, where it like lowers the opinion of the medium as a whole.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
And it's weird to think as well, like those decisions in those games, like they've been made by people like in their 40s.
And that was one thing that always threw me off. Dead or Alive as a series is just like, but
it's embarrassing.
Why are they all sexualized so much? Like, why are these women all just like? And to be fair, this was me without really knowing, and like I did end up playing DOA 5 when you showed me it. It's a solid game, but like,
you can't get past
all
it,
I knew was like, oh, Dead or Alive. It's got boob physics. Got a bunch of women. Then I saw like the beach volleyball game, and I was like, I don't want to feel creepy. I don't want to play these games.
Do you know they actually developed like new graphical technology to realize those games? Like they developed like sweat engine.
Oh, okay.
Like realistic sweat engine for the characters and dirt for those volleyball games.
Of the volleyball games specifically.
That they then put into the fighting games, yeah.
I was gonna say I do remember like the winning screens of like Dead or Alive 5 where the sweat looks quite good on them, and
it's just the character designs are fucking horrendous. And you're like, oh. There's no other way to describe it. It's like it is embarrassing.
It really is, and most of the like females luckily have an outfit you can unlock to put them in actual fucking clothing, but that shouldn't really be something that I have to spend time to unlock outfits to make them look normal. It's like, just make them look.
And we've talked about before, like the only game that's ever handled that properly is Tekken, where they put in swimsuits for everyone, including the men.
Yeah, like if you're gonna put swimsuit sets in, put them in for fucking everyone.
That's the one, yeah. If you're gonna have that eye candy in there, have eye candy for everybody.
Hell
Cater to
yeah,
everybody's
like,
tastes.
who doesn't want to watch like Heihachi just rocking that speedo, man?
To be fair, he's been doing that since Tekken 4 when they gave him like the big the nappy.
Yeah, they did. They did.
And it's just like there's just something about the idea of like he was like I think the final boss. And you rock up to the final boss, and it's just Heihachi in a diaper, like fucking bring it on. It's like that is a confident man.
And it gets similar to like the sumo get up, isn't it? Of having those like thick bands around your crotch, and that's all they wear.
It's a display of his confidence as well.
I mean, I'd see that as a confident man.
It's a display of his confidence that I don't need anything but my own skills to kick the shit out of you.
Like I'm gonna sit here mostly naked in my dojo. You come challenge me.
I think it's in the middle of an arena because it's the King of Iron Fist. He's like the final boss, and he just sits in his arena waiting for someone to challenge him on public TV.
Oh, I thought I might be getting my games confused here because I have an image in my head of like Heihachi just sitting in a dojo.
That's like number 6 and 7, where he's in his dojo and like Kazuya challenges him. But you know what? We're getting into some weird, obscure lore for Tekken there.
Yeah.
And that is a big thing. But something I actually did do this week that I thought was it's something I noticed and hadn't noticed previously. And I was rewatching Infinity Wars in the background. And it was like a pretty solid film. And while I was watching it, I noticed something that just made me go, oh, that's related to something that happened this week. And do you remember when we made the Deadpool video? And all the weird fanboys are getting really mad because we talked about the A-Force scene. We have all the women from Marvel in one scene.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's like, that's one of those scenes where men just keep complaining about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have that exact same scene in Infinity War? Do you remember that they had that exact same moment? In the fight in Wakanda, just after or around the time Thor arrives, Proxima Midnight runs onto the battlefield.
And that's when Black Widow attacks her, but then like Wanda comes and helps out as well.
Wanda comes in, as does Okoye. And they have they have the fight between all of them. So it's all the women in the movie up to that point. And they say she's not alone. They say the exact same line. And that's what made me notice it.
I didn't notice it was the exact same line, but
it's the same line. Do you know the line when Captain Marvel turns up?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, how are you going to do it on your own? It's like, she's not alone. Like when Proxima Midnight is challenging Black Widow, Okoye comes in and says the same line. I went, oh, so that scene in Endgame is a reference to this scene here. But do you ever remember anyone complaining about that scene?
No, but at the same time, I do remember being in the cinema and like that scene happened, and I gave like just a Jenna and I, my girlfriend, like we just gave each other that little look of like, and then spoke about it afterwards briefly of just like, did they really have to make the women fight the woman? Like, did that need to happen? And it was like, no.
But I do think Proxima Midnight is a fucking awesome character.
Oh yeah.
Like, I want them to get their own spin-off. Like, that's such a fucking good design.
Well, I was happy that they got a little bit of a mention in, a tiny spoiler. They are within the last
one of the What If episodes. They have that great line, don't they? They've got one of the exhibits guard in the museum, which is a fucking incredible line. Yeah, but like I noticed that happened, and I thought, so the scene in Endgame, that's just a building up of that scene there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just remember like all the weird men we were getting complaining. It was like, oh, it comes out of nowhere. It's like, it's not. It's actually a reference to a scene in the previous movie. It's just building up on that scene. It's just adding more to it. The same way that the fight between Thanos, Cap, Thor, and Iron Man.
Yeah,
he's like just a build up of all the things that happen throughout the Avengers films.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is, I do feel like that one shot of all the women is crammed in a little bit, but at the same time, I'm not mad at that.
That's what's really strange as well, because something I was like looking up is like it's just a reference to the A-Force cover, the cover of the A-Force, which has that exact pose. And it's like, oh, so it's just a comic reference. The same way when Cap gets Mjolnir and he does like the knee, and it's like, oh, that's just a comic panel.
Yeah.
Like everything, like every fight moment in that fight scene is just, oh, that's a comic panel, that's a comic panel, that's a reference to something from something else. Like, oh, it's just another reference to another piece of Marvel media. Because like, fuck it, everybody gets their reference.
Yeah, exactly. And shout out to the latest What If episode of basically having a Falcon knee in there.
Oh, I saw that. I hype for that Falcon fucking knee.
And I don't want to get too spoiler territory about like What If people haven't seen it.
I like I've already got a weird guy in it. It's who's complaining, saying they're all there by coincidence in the middle of Thanos' army. Well, are you really going to single that out as the one coincidence?
Yeah.
In that fight scene.
There's also the coincidence where like Gamora just happens to have a moment alone with
Star-Lord in the middle of a fight scene.
Yeah.
You also you also just so happen to have just the van just be there.
Yes, yeah.
And Ant-Man noticed it, and then Ant-Man has a conversation with Wasp in the middle of a fight scene.
Mm-hmm. And it's like,
that's the thing I don't get.
Coincidence of just the timing of everybody arriving? Like, if they
at the exact same time, yeah. Surely some people will be coming later. It's like, no.
Well, it's not even that. It's more just like, oh, they arrived at the perfect, most cinematic moment of like Steve Rogers strapping in, ready to fight one-on-one with an entire army. Like,
well, no one says that's coincidence. Oh, it's just coincidental that Wong and all the sorcerers managed to get everybody to appear at the exact same time, and they even managed to make sure that Sam Wilson ends up on Cap's left.
And they managed to make it so that it was like perfect timing to make it the most dramatic moment of all. Like, they couldn't have just showed up at the start when, like, you know, Cap and Thor and Iron Man are all fine. No.
Yeah, and it's really telling that the one thing people refuse to believe is that all the women happen to be there.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, it's just. It is one of those of like, yeah, it's a coincidence, but the amount of coincidence that also happen that you don't want to complain about is like, come on.
When the only thing you complain about is that, it's like, do you ever see that great tweet from that knobhead that immediately got deleted, where it's a guy, I think he tweeted out something like, respond below with your least favorite character from the MCU, and he listed all his least favorite characters, and I think just someone screenshotted his entire thread and went, I'm starting to notice a trend here, and the guy just. All the characters he didn't like was every single woman in the MCU. And it's like, it's fair enough if your least favorite character happens to be a woman in that series, but it's very telling that every character you dislike is a woman.
And I found it really funny. I pointed out to Jenna like the other week. There was one of those just like silly meme-ish posts on Twitter, and it was like, you have like $15 to spend on like the Avengers, and who would you choose? And it's like, some characters cost like 5, some 4, 3, 2, 1, and basically tiered how useful each Avenger would be. And you've got like at the top, it's like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and then like in the middle is like Captain Marvel or something like that. Then like
the most powerful character,
WandaVision. So like the two women who are like the strongest two people in the MCU so far, who are powered by fucking Infinity Stones. Oh yeah, they're like bottom tier. But Iron Man in a robot suit.
To clarify as well, that's not us. Like Kevin Feige himself has confirmed that the two strongest Avengers are Captain Marvel and Wanda, because they got their powers, as Luke said, directly from an Infinity Stone.
Yep, and like, look at what Wanda does to Thanos, of just walk up to him and just like, I'm going to rip you limb from limb. And it's only because he just calls down the hailstorm that like he even gets away from Wanda at all.
She single-handedly managed to do what? The combined forces, if I'm remembering the fight on Titan scene correctly, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Drax, Star-Lord, Mantis.
And Mantis, yeah.
Doctor Strange.
And Doctor Strange, yeah.
And Doctor Strange is there as well. Is that all the people who are in the fight on Titan, I think?
Yes.
So, the combined forces of the combined might of all those characters, and Wanda does it like that.
Yeah, she just walks literally up and is like, you're fucking mine now, bitch.
Yeah, one-handed.
But no, she's not as strong as Iron Man. Not as useful as Iron Man is in a fight.
Yeah, a character who has like unlimited, like nigh omnipotence.
And I think like people like Star-Lord are above them as well. And it's like, I get that he's, a half celestial, but his powers only exist on Ego from what they show. Like, okay, yeah, that's real useful. Just can you come fight over here, mate?
Yeah.
Like, oh god. And it's just one of those they may not have like had any bad intentions in that. But the fact that even if they weren't thinking about it, they just automatically ranked a lot of the females lower.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I say it's very telling. It's telling when someone's like first response is that. It's like when they draw the line of like someone mentioned earlier, like, oh, it's a coincidence, or they draw the line of it being like, too fan servicey or too cringy. It's like, why is it not cringy when it's all the other stuff that you liked? You draw the line at the thing that you don't like, and why is it you don't like this thing? Because the only difference I can really see is that this scene has all the women in it.
Yeah.
So I think you said it once when we were discussing stuff, and you just went, just say it. Like we'd all have more respect if you just said what you mean.
Yeah.
Stop trying to pussyfoot around it and just say it.
It's just maddening, isn't it? Like I would almost have more respect for you if you just straight up went, I really don't like women.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have respect for you, but I'd have a crumb more respect for you than when you don't admit it, but you still
when you're trying to pussyfoot around it and pretend that it's not. It's like, no. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. And it's like then you break down like other things in the scene that don't make sense. Like, well, no, that's like, that's different. Because how is it different? And they never want to say it. And it's like, just say what I think. Like we all know you want to say.
Yeah, totally. Oh god. But yeah, like it just annoys me. Really annoys me.
Yeah.
Oh, but like, representation doesn't matter, Karl, until like I'm not represented. That's always my favourite one. It's like nobody
in a film with 50 fucking characters.
It's always that argument, isn't it? Like, well, no, I'm not mad that like somebody else is being represented. It's like, but you only ever get mad when like it's not a white man. Like, if there's a white man front and center, that's fine. The lack of representation, like that, doesn't matter. But when when it's like a black woman, say for example, it's like no, like that's not fair. Why do they get to be a main character? I could go watch White Man anywhere I see. Like, there's enough.
So we've had it out with the like the discussion is it feels forced. Like when you put like a person of a minority in a film, it's like, but why don't you say that when they're literally rewriting, in some cases, actual history to put white people in? It's like that 9/11 film, and one of the many 9/11 films that came out after 9/11. There is one based on the firefighters who rescued people from that, and one of the characters in that is based on a real dude who died in during the event.
Right.
And he was black, and they got a white guy to play him. That is literally forcing in a character. That's forcing in, and I would say that is 100% an agenda right there. When you're forcing in a white person into a story that is revolving around a black dude, because he's a real guy who actually lived.
I think it says a lot that we have the term like whitewashing. The fact that term exists,
mighty whitey, and all
means that there's been a lot of it throughout.
Or you have the one of what was the other film, The Martian, where the main character in The Martian, the novel, is Korean.
Oh.
And it's Matt Damon in the film.
Mm-hmm.
There's like no one complained about that being forced, because that's the thing, you literally have to force that, because you are changing the race of the main character from what it was like the author's original intention.
Yeah, and like
or the Aloha film with Emma Stone, where the character she's supposed to be playing is supposed to be like South Pacific Islander,
right?
Like I think like half Asian, like half South Pacific Islander. She's supposed to be like Native Hawaiian.
Yeah,
I'm not sure the exact race comes to her, but it's definitely not Emma Stone. It's definitely not Alabaster Emma Stone.
And that's like we were actually talking a little
bit
about
that.
this
Guy
over
went
the weekend.
One of the people in chat said they just had to get a big name in the movie. There are black actors. There are famous black actors.
It's like, yeah.
There are black people who act. I'm not sure if it's a surprise to you, but you can hire a black. There are many famous black people who presumably would have loved to have that role.
Yeah.
But no one ever complains about that. And when they do, it's always the same people who'd complain about a woman being in a film will say, well, you're just like, you're just getting offended over nothing. It's like, well, they're not. Because this is a real story that happened.
That's the thing is like...
What about The Martian? There are Asian actors who are famous.
There are, yeah.
Like Daewoo Kim's right there. He's fucking there. That guy's awesome. Johnny Gat, Jin from Lost. Let's fucking go. Like good. I like that as well. The guy tried to save that there by going, "No, I'm on about the Martian." It's like
that's still the exact same point. It doesn't matter what like race we're talking about here. You will be able to find like a famous actor. It's like, oh god. But yeah, like
Daewoo Kim. It's like if you need an Asian guy in Hollywood who looks like super handsome, but also like a kick your ass, you get him. You get Daewoo Kim.
And I was surprised. One that I was expecting to see comments like that on was Netflix releasing some like pictures of the live action Cowboy Bebop like remake that they're doing.
I'm not too familiar with Cowboy Bebop, so you'll have to
well, it was more just the fact that it was like John Cho, is it, who got cast as like Spike, and then there's like a black man who got cast as a white character or like not black character in Cowboy Bebop, and then like I think the woman's cast as like an Asian woman, and I'm like, clicked on that thinking, oh, what comments am I gonna see? Like, how bad is it gonna be? And then everyone was just like, John Cho looks awesome in this. I was like, oh, cool. That's really nice and refreshing to see.
Yeah. And before anyone jumps on it, because we know someone's going to say this, because I want to say we had this conversation with like a mutual friend recently where we had to like lay it down for him. When they hire a black person to play a white character, that's not the same as hiring a white person to play a black character, because in the case of almost every black character I can think of in my head, them being black is important to their character.
Yeah.
A lot of the whereas time, a white person, them being white, is not important to their character.
And I think that's
incidental.
One like distinguishable thing, isn't it? Of like, yeah, if it is just race of person, completely doesn't matter and is inconsequential, then fair enough.
Whoever the fuck you want to play.
Again, Cowboy Bebop, it's never really brought up what race anyone is. It doesn't really like come in context of the film. It's like a space western. So cast them as whoever the fuck you want. That's
just
fine.
hire the best person for the role. But you always get, whenever something like, I guess, you always get that person trying to like do the gotcha of, oh, well, you'd complain if it was the other way around. It's like, yeah. Because it's almost like there's a context that you're ignoring.
And there's also a history of, as I say, like whitewashing and like blackface and shit like this, where it's like, yeah, it's not great.
It's not. And I always love that one as well, because it's when someone says, are you saying that a white actor couldn't play a black character, a black person? It's like, well, they could, and I'd love to see it. I would love to see the actor ballsy enough to do that.
Yeah.
I would 100%.
Well, at least in modern day.
That. Yeah, I would pay money to see that explanation.
And I still just think back to, I don't know if you've actually watched this episode.
Oh God, someone just brought up fucking Robert Downey Jr. Fucking hell, do people still not get that?
That was a fucking parody.
It's parody, you not. You're a fucking moron.
God.
Should we break that down? Because I'm so sick of people bringing up Robert Downey Jr. Right. Right. So Robert Downey Jr. very famously, or infamously if you're a moron, appears in Tropic Thunder in blackface. And his character is a method actor.
That's the character.
And the joke is that he is supposed to be a parody of actors insisting that they can play any race they want. Like it is self-aware.
The entire movie, they spend dunking on him for doing it.
Yeah, like everybody in the movie is actively telling him he's like stupid and he's wrong. And he's being a pig-headed A-list actor insisting that, no, I can do this because I'm a good enough actor to pull it off.
And I'm not necessarily saying that they should have written that character into the movie in the first place, but the entire point was to make fun of people who think it's okay.
Yeah, the idea is lampshading it. And he's letting it know, and he has all the same arguments that you'd get, like, actors who've tried to defend it in the past doing. It is 100% self-aware, and every single time we do, someone was like, oh, you couldn't make that film today because people have complained. It's like, no, morons wouldn't understand it, as they didn't when it was released.
Oh, God.
And it's just every single time.
I've heard that argument so many times.
And it's so infuriating because it's just, they do it as if like, aha, I've got you here. It's like, no, did you watch the film? Do you understand basic film theory?
It's like, did they just see the picture of him in the movie and not watch the movie.
Yeah,
That is
do you
the
not
only
see
way I could think that somebody sees that and doesn't realize how much of just an obvious parody it was.
And as well, how much every character in the movie calls him out for it.
Yeah.
And the fact as well that Robert Downey Jr. actively went out and asked a bunch of like, black actors, is this okay? And they're like, it's fucking hilarious. Same thing with like Blazing Saddles, where they always say like you couldn't. That's the one, the Mel Brooks one with Gene Wilder, and I forget the other guy's name. But like that's the one where it's like the black cowboy or the black sheriff,
right? And
it is very again infamous amongst morons because it has many utilizations of the N word.
Right. Okay.
And it's done for parody. It's lampshading. And that film was like not co-written, but Richard Pryor, the very famous black comedian, looked over the script and was like a supervisor on set. And the idea is like the casual throwing around of the N-word is supposed to be like representative of like what black people face every day. It's like because when you watch it, you're like, oh my god, did they just say the N-word to this guy? And he's like the sheriff. It's like, yeah, that's what it's like being a black person. You can be in a position of authority. You can be the nicest, most competent person in the room and still have somebody say that to your face. Yeah. That's the point. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. That's the point. And then people don't get it.
Oh, God. And I
Cleveland Little, there we go. I apologize. Like, that guy's excellent in that role, but he's not been in much.
Yeah.
And he's like fucking fantastic in that film. And he does have one of the greatest moments of breaking character where Gene Wilder is explaining that the people in this town, they're small-minded. They're simple folk. Morons. And he breaks character because he wasn't expecting that. And it was just like an honest moment of him, of just like, catharsis of someone telling him, look, they're just fucking morons. And he's like, yeah, I get it.
God, it was funny because I saw not long ago, like, someone had only, out of all Tarantino's movies, only seen Django Unchained, so therefore assumed the person writing this movie must have been black. And then later down the line, like, realized, like, oh, okay, he's not black. We're just watching that movie and going, like, I get that. Like, that word is thrown around very, very casually in that movie.
Well, that's the thing, 'cause it was at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not a historical film, it's set in that time period.
An exaggerated version, like all Tarantino's
Not to mention as well,
yeah.
Not to mention as well, the whole reason it's thrown around so much is so that when Django comes inside, like the best scene in that movie is when he's whipping the fucking slave owner.
Oh yeah.
I have heard stories from friends of mine of like, yeah, I watched that film in like a predominantly black audience, and people were like asking the guy to rewind the film so they could watch that bit again. People were like, and I was like, that is an experience like I will never ever have.
No.
Because like I do not have that life experience of just like dealing with that on a daily basis. Like, I can't imagine how cathartic it was.
That must have been awesome to watch
for Jamie Foxx and for like black people watching that film to see a slave get fucking whipped. It's so good. It's like one of the best scenes in the entire film.
Oh god, and that entire movie is just great.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's like the one in Inglourious Bastards, isn't it? Where they have the entire film of like building up, and then at the end, it's like just they have that one shot of just the guy shooting Hitler in the face
and just like annihilating this rubber mask of Hitler. Like
they have because they do it, and then you think, oh my god, he's dead. But then they even show like the guy looks over and just shoots his corpse. It's like, yes, that's exactly what you want.
Do you want that cathartic moment where they don't just kill Hitler?
They fucking annihilate
his body. Yeah,
as you would, yeah.
And man, oh god, I love as well, like just the idea of like, well, you know what? You can just take your uniform off. I'm just gonna carve fucking swastika into your
directly into your forehead, yeah.
Like you can't fucking put a bit of makeup on that, mate.
Nope, no stopping that.
Oh god, because like obviously, there was a lot of fucking Nazis that just must have walked away and got away with it and signed like confidentiality agreement with like other
a bunch probably did, yeah,
like that. And just no, I love the idea. Fuck them, the fucking Nazis. Don't let them get away.
That moment is fantastic.
Yeah,
and it's like all the build up, and I believe it's the same in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've not seen that yet. It's been on my list for a while, but Like
Same, yeah.
I forget which serial killer it's the basis of. Like there's the background to the films. Like there's a serial. I think it's the Dahmers, or maybe it's Mansons.
I've not
And
seen the movie or know much about it, to be honest, so I'm not sure.
yeah, but I believe at the end of the film, it's just Brad Pitt's character goes and kicks the shit out of a serial killer, and just like kung fu fights a serial. And again, it's that moment of catharsis. Like, fuck this guy.
Is that all
Like,
Tarantino wants to do? Just give us those moments of like, we're gonna build up an entire movie for just like catharsis.
Well, yeah, it's like, acceptable target of uber violence. Like what Wolfenstein. Like Wolfenstein exists on that cross of like, well, if you're going to make an uber violent game where you like, obliterate people, let's just give you a target where no one feels bad for them. Nazis.
And then there were people mad at them for like campaigning the marketing around like, yeah, let's kill some fucking Nazis, and people are like, no, that's insensitive to the Nazis. It's a fuck the Nazis.
I still think like the best, like, that was one of the best advertising campaigns for a game, which just fuck Nazis.
Literally. Just oh god. And then I was so happy when I saw those adverts go out and stuff, and all that marketing roll out, and then the fact that I saw people getting mad about it online, I'm like, yeah.
That makes me like, it made me like the game more.
Yeah.
And
totally.
that game has probably as well one of the best line readings in a video game. So you played the game?
A little bit of it first.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a spoiler in it now. BJ Blazkowicz, like, fucking just Aryan Ubermensch. Midway through the game, you get captured and you get executed publicly on TV.
Oh, okay.
Like you die, and in first person, you see yourself get executed.
Oh.
But at the last possible second, as your head falls off your body, they catch it with a little robot and they put it on top of a Nazi super soldier body. Because part of the story is that they're breeding like genetically perfect Nazi super soldiers, and they steal the body and then put BJ Blazkowicz's head on top of it. And then the next mission you have,
that's the reasoning behind why he's a normal character again rather than like crippled.
And also as well, like how, like, 'cause I think he's crippled from the start, and then he gets like the super robot suit. You lose that, and then you get like just basically the Nazi Ubermensch body, and they send you after the lady who like executed you, and she's on a TV show talking about how she killed you. And she's talking like, "Oh yeah, I killed BJ Blazkowicz. This guy's a pussy. Like, what the fuck's he gonna do?" And then you sneak into the studio, and like, if you wait, you can hear her talk the entire time, like just chatting shit about how she killed you and about, "Oh yeah, I'm really great. Everyone loves me. I'm the best." And then you just come down on an elevator, and she just sees you. And the line read from the lady, it's like, I say, like, her scream is blood curdling, because it's just, I have never heard such abject terror in the voice of someone reading a line from a video game. Because like, it is horrifying, because she's just like, she's seen a ghost.
Yeah.
And just her scream of like, "You're supposed to be dead. You're supposed to be dead."
Well, it's the same woman, the blonde woman who's like basically torturing you and killing your friends at the start.
Yes.
So again, like even more of a build up for that character.
Yeah, it's that catharsis, and you just like ram an axe through her face. It's great. But it's just that, like, her line read of like, "You're supposed to be dead." It actually made me like, it curdled me, like my blood. Like, oh, I've never heard like someone scream. It's like when you watch a horror movie and someone just does a really good scream.
Yeah.
I don't want to like a fake horror movie, but when they actually have like terror in their voice, it's like, oh god, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that. I don't like hearing that.
Oh god, and yeah, like that was similar to that one in like Night Trap, and like we watched that one scene where like when I was streaming it, you mentioned it,
like the one girl who acts her fucking heart out when she's getting kidnapped.
So then I looked it up and was like, oh my god, yeah, this is like kind of horrifying how much she's just selling being stolen by bin bag vampire people that are going to kill her.
It's weird that if she was a worse actor, like if she was a worse actor, then that game might not have been as controversial. So people don't know, like the game Night Trap basically nearly killed video games. It brought in the ERSB. Is that the one?
ESRB,
Entertainment Ratings Board, whatever the fuck it is. They had that. That got brought in because of Night Trap, because it's like a game about you watching over a house full of traps, and it's really cartoonish. It's really silly, very B-movie.
Super B-movie and campy for the most part, yeah.
And like the enemies in it are not a threat at all. And the story is that it was originally going to be vampires, but they didn't want to put vampires in because vampires are too scary. So they made them into like half vampires who walk around like, and they're like, they don't bite you. They have like a weird hook that they put around your neck, and they drain
Basically
your
have
blood
like
with that.
granny grabbers that they put around you that drill into your neck and steal your blood.
And
then
they
they're
are
covered in like bin bags so they don't look like actual monsters or anything.
Yeah, and they are a cartoonishly ineffective threat.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one point in the game where if you fail, one girl gets kidnapped by a couple of these vampires, and just she sells being she sells like being in terror and being attacked so well that it's actually uncomfortable to watch.
Oh,
And if
it
you
really
watch
is,
it out, if you watch it out of context, it's fucking horrifying. And they use that clip to sell to the US government that this is a murder simulator. Look at this video game you're playing with your children, like your children might be able to play, where you watch this woman die on screen.
And they
I think if
made
that
it
woman
out as if the entire game is
was
as
that
horrible as that, and how terrifying it is. And it's like, look at this video game where all you do is watch women get gruesomely kidnapped and murdered.
It's like if that lady would have been a shit actor, like if she'd have been worse, then maybe video games would have been saved, or at least like that court case would have had less ammo.
It would have had less ammo. It's like the question of
they still had Mortal Kombat
on its own. Would Mortal Kombat and like the little pixelated skull being ripped out of the body, would that have been enough?
I think people would have written it off as like it's a one-off.
Yeah, but
they would have seen it as like, well, I think it's because they had
some point down the line the
presumably
ESRB would have like become a thing anyway.
But I think with Night Trap, because it was actual people, that's what did it. It's like Mortal Kombat and that.
Yeah,
that's weird thing. Like that lady just been such a good actor in that scene, changed the course of video games.
And I can't imagine a world where we got like past Manhunt without making a ratings board.
Oh yeah, well, Manhunt's like it's just hilarious to play now. Have you ever played Manhunt like
not
recently?
Since like they released essentially.
Yeah, I played Manhunt. I want to say like a couple of years ago because I had it. I think I still have like at home. And like, how bad was this actually? And the worst bit about it is the sound design. The actual violence on
like,
screen.
The sound of like strangling someone with like piano chord or whatever it was horrifying. Like the sound design was really good. Well, really good in a which resulted in a bad. But it was well designed.
The worst part of that game is the sound. If people don't know, Manhunt is just a game where you murder people. Like you're put into like basically a game show in a dystopian version of the world where you just have to kill people to survive. And like the actual violence is fairly muted because most of it is like framed. I wouldn't say artistically. I'll just say it's framed creatively, so that your imagination fills in most of what's happening on screen, with the exception of a couple which make you go, "Oh!" Like I think it was like the baseball bat one.
If I remember rightly, like for example, the strangling, you mainly see it in like first person with just like the arms and a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it's the baseball bat one is one that I remember going, "Oh," because that's when you hit them, you see like the actual top of their head fly off, and that was like legitimately, surprising to see. But the rest of it's just really good sound design. It's Rockstar made it, and Rockstar have got all that Rockstar money. They had that Grand Theft Auto money. And like the one that got me is just one of the first ones you see, and it is putting a carrier bag over someone's head.
Odd.
And it's just the one because it takes about 30 seconds. Like if you do the bad one, because if you do the quick one, you kill the guy in like 5 seconds. But if you do the slow one, which gets you less points, but it takes longer, so you're more likely to get caught doing it. It's like a good 40 seconds of this guy struggling, and you have like the sound of the guy struggling to breathe as your character's like punching him in the face, and you like hear his nose break as he's struggling to breathe, and you hear like, and it's like, oh, and that's the worst one in the game. And it's the first one you see.
And that's the thing is, imagine like you're the person who playing the game at the ESRB who has to rate this game. The first thing you do is like for 40 seconds strangle someone with a carrier bag as you're like punching them in the face and listening to them just die slowly. It's like, yeah, this is gonna get like a bad rating, a mature rating for sure.
Yeah. And again, if the sound design would have been worse, if like, the people making that game would have been like less talented, I feel like that it wouldn't hit as hard. And it just shows like, all media is like, a sum of its parts.
But I always think, and like when we discussed this kind of thing of like,
yes,
because it's gotten so realistic, I feel so sorry for the people who have to make this kind of stuff, because there's that story with like Mortal Kombat developers where
they get PTSD.
they had to like get counseling and stuff, a lot of them, because they were forced to look up images of like dead people and vicious murders and stuff so that they could, as realistically as possible, recreate that in the fatalities and stuff. It's like,
autopsy photos,
is it worth it?
Autopsy photos and all stuff like that. And they get like people coming in from law enforcement and things of that nature, and hospital ER doctors, trauma doctors, soldiers, people who've lost their limbs.
And it has to be that thing of like, oh, you know, when I shoot them in the skull here and their brain explodes across the screen, like, is that being done in an accurate way or not? I have to research that. It's, oh god.
That's why, like, you know, just we all that peaked. Uber violence peaked with Gears of War, particularly the first one, where it's just so cartoonish, where it cannot even be understood to be representative of real life. Like, there's just something about I think that's the limit of how gory something can be, but while also like maintaining enough to be funny.
Right.
To me, when like because in Gears of War, when you like hit someone with a shotgun, they just explode.
Like there's just chunks of body like.
And it's so cartoonish. Like they'll get cut in half by a bolt-top pistol.
But yet again, when they added like photo mode or whatever it was to that game, I don't remember the photo mode or like spectator mode in Versus or something that you had like the ghost camera and you could fly the camera around, and like you know, curious, morbid, like teenage me just went up to like the bodies that had been blown apart and like, well, how realistic is like the rib cage sticking out of the body and stuff like that?
Yeah. So you have Last of Us 2, isn't it? Like they put like so much effort into that. Like when you hit someone, have you seen like they went as far to like program in like teeth being knocked out of face physics and stuff like that. And it's like that's too much. You didn't have to do this.
Didn't have to program those like cold and drink and.
What am I supposed to aim for? What am I supposed to aim for when I'm chasing someone down on my horse?
It's like I you know, there's those two levels of like the needless details that they put in. Like the horse testicles are one that I'm like, that doesn't need to be it. The person spending like what was it, a year on Batman's cape looking good.
That guy got his fucking paycheck.
Yeah, and that's like, you know, that's a really cool detail that sells the game better.
Yeah, it's like, do you see the one for Red Dead where they had horse artists, not programmers, not artists, horse artists, and their only job, like they had multiple as well, not just one, they had multiple, and their only job was just painting the horses and making their coats look unique and realistic to what an actual horses would look like. So and I think they had 5 of them. So they had 5 full-time horse artists working on that to make sure all the horses looked immaculate.
I mean, they did a good job.
They did, yeah. But they, like, what it means, like, they weren't the people, like, you know, design, like, rigging the horses. And then they just made the look of the horses.
Yeah. That's a lot of people.
Horse artist. What a job. I still remember as well, one of the funniest moments of that game is when I whistled for my horse inside a building. And, like, the horse just jammed its head through a door. And I just heard this, like, because I had, like, I've got surround sound on my TV. And for some reason, the horse headbutting its way into the saloon just only made my left speaker, or my right speaker, I guess I'm using this hand, just like blow the fuck out. So I shit myself. Because I whistled for my horse and I said, what the fuck is that? And I turned my character around, it was like a horse, and its head's all the way through the window to the saloon, just staring at me.
It's like, hi.
You called.
You did.
You called, John.
Oh, God. Like, I think, you know, it's fair for for the most part, the balls was a bit far, but like the amount of detail they put into those horses, because, you know, the horses are so integral to that game, but
you can't move around without a horse.
As I heard that GTA 6 won't come out until like everybody's nipples in the game harden appropriately.
But we see there's some ridiculous details in that game, like flip flop. That's one that got me. Like if you walk in flip-flops, they actually make the flip-flop noise. And that was apparently very important to the design. Like we're not putting flip-flops in unless they flop and flip properly. That little thing. And it's like if you drive a car for long enough and then drive to a secluded enough area where there's no background noise, you can hear the engine like tick over and stuff like that. And it's like the one that in Grand Theft Auto 4, like the game before all that, like got me. And I actually fell for it a couple of times as well, is when Nico's about to get a call. The radio does that thing that radios do, and I
with the interference.
I legit multiple times playing that game pulled my phone out thinking I was getting a call because I was so engrossed in the game. Like, am I getting a call? Like, no, I'm not, because my phone wouldn't affect the radio in the car in a video game. But for a second, I thought that it did. And that was amazing.
That's a very weird level of immersion, isn't it?
Yeah, where I thought my phone call in real... So the phone call is like... That is simultaneously bringing me out of the game and then putting me back into it, where I'm so engrossed in the game that I thought something outside of it was impacting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like worried that my own phone was into my own immersion.
God, like I can't imagine that if you're like playing a horror game, like you're sitting there playing like Resident Evil, and then somebody just screams and calls like, "Well, I hope that isn't in real life." Fuck.
Oh, that's not in my house.
Oh shit! Just Lady
G
standing behind you, Karl.
That was one of those ones that got me a couple of times, and that's why that stuff is in there. It is in there for that reaction. They put that amount of money into it. One, because they've got it.
Yeah.
And two, if it wasn't in there, you'd expect it to be. Especially now, like, Rockstar have kind of made that their raison d'etre, where that is their thing. Their thing is just making the game that has like the most ridiculous minutiae put into everything.
I want that, but for like Rockstar's table tennis.
Rockstar's table tennis needs like a 4K remaster.
No, it needs like 8 years of development so they can get the texture on the ping pong ball perfect, Karl.
I don't know why that game's not still a thing. I'm pissed off that like FIFA continues to be made, but Rockstar table tennis is not like an annual series. Like, imagine all the bullshit you could put into Rockstar's table tennis.
I believe Rockstar table tennis was intentionally a one-off tech.
It was physics demo more than anything, wasn't it? It's the new physics engine they got.
Preview for their new engine that they used
for the facial recognition stuff.
I don't even know if it was facial recognition, but yeah, it was like I think it was their entire game engine. They made an entire new game engine, and they were like, "We're going to test it out with a ping pong game."
Fuck it, yeah, make a ping pong game. It's like, oh, I'd love that. But it's like, make more ping pong games. It's like I want a foosball game. I want like a hyper realistic air hockey / foosball game.
I want all that. Plenty of like air hockey games on like the Nintendo Wii and shit like that.
No, I want a super realistic one, and they need to spend an ungodly amount of time on the sound design. They need to get that clink clank of when the air hockey thing clinks. They need that to be perfect. That needs to be like someone taking a year off and getting the machine in their house and like a high quality mic, getting every conceivable angle of a hit, so it sounds like super super realistic. I want that shit.
The realistic sound effect of like when you get too aggressive, you swipe your hand and hit like your thumb on the side.
No,
like,
oh, have you ever done that?
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever done the one where you try and like defend your goal and like whack your thumb against your own goal?
Hand backwards to
lift your hand up, and then your mate scores on you.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh god damn it! Now, fuck's sake! I've had that happen so many times.
That's true immersion, Karl.
And then you need that option to cheat and just slam it down and stop it from going in. Do you know that thing that people do? No, that's cheating. No, none of that.
Oh god. Man, it's one of those things where you mentioned I don't think about air hockey very often.
But when you
see just mentioned it now, and I haven't been able to play air hockey in like 3 years, Karl.
It's like bowling.
Yeah.
No one really thinks about bowling, but when you go bowling, it's the funnest shit ever.
I watched the Big Lebowski a couple of weeks ago, and was just
I want to go
bowling. I miss bowling.
Like bowling's so awesome. But right, I tell you what, I'm just gonna go take myself a quick bathroom break. Yeah, apologies for that. Hopefully you'll be able to like just edit around that in some way.
Yeah, it'll be fine, yeah, because I can see like the missing bit on your audio.
We'll figure it out. There actually was something I wanted to talk about this week, and I've forgotten what it was. Do you know that thing? Like, because we got just like I got really into talking about like Rockstar's ping pong, and I'm like, god damn it, I forgot what I was gonna say.
I'm surprised that hasn't just been like the casual mention of everyone being like, bring back Bully. That I actually thought Bully was one of their weaker games.
It wasn't great.
I went back and played a little bit of like, it's not even Bully over here, is it? It's like Canis Canem Edit.
Canis Canem Edit, yeah. Dog eat dog in Latin, if anyone wants to know.
It's what in Latin?
Dog eat dog.
Dog eat dog, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I thought the game was a bit bland. Like, it was fine for the time, but yeah, I don't understand like the clamoring for Bully to come back.
It was just
like I would very much respect if Rockstar comes out with another game that they took 8 years to develop and it wasn't GTA 6. I'd respect that move so much. It's like
it's going to be Grand Theft Auto.
You're still playing GTA Online. We're still releasing it on the PS5 in like a month or whatever it is.
I'm going to check, see if I can see. Like, do I remember what I was going to talk about? Just going to quickly check my notes, see if I made a note of it, because I probably didn't.
Yeah, normally I try to remember to like send myself a message of like, oh, remember that there was this article that you read or something. And then a lot of the times I just forget to do that. So I forget to remind myself about it in the first place. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, I can't find it. That's what I was going to talk about. So is there anything like you've seen this week, Lucas? Oh, wait a minute, Mo. Wait, I remember what it was. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story now, Lucas. I want you to keep this story in mind. So in 1989, Mr. John Cleese was reading a copy. So John Cleese, the comedian, one of the original Monty Pythons, was reading an article by the I believe the Daily Mirror, in which they described him as becoming more and more like his character of Basil Fawlty with each passing year, in reference to the fact he was just being like a humorless, just like asshole essentially. And Mr. John Cleese, he read that and he was very upset. He was very upset to be compared to the character of Basil Fawlty, and he sued the paper for libel. He complained, and they offered to give him £10,000 and print an apology, which he did not think was good enough. So instead, he sued them and got several £1,000s more and an even bigger apology. And during his argument in court for why he deserved that money, he said that whilst it is people are free to say what they want, if they say something that offends somebody, they should take special care to take account and note of that individual's sensibilities and whether or not they're more delicate than others, or something to that effect.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, John Cleese is going to be making a show for Channel 4 about cancel culture and why it's bad.
Cool.
So, Lucas, thoughts?
Like,
so I remember I tweeted about this. If anyone wondered why I tweeted about that, I was just checking.
Yeah, because I didn't actually read what you tweeted. I just saw something about John Cleese a few days ago or whatever it was.
And I did do the research on this story, but the quote is not accurate. I'll try now while you do your thing and find the exact quote from John Cleese, because it is fucking hilarious, given that he's trying to make a TV show. Now he's going to be hitting one about like cancel culture and why it's bad.
Oh, maybe he's learned his lesson. Maybe he stopped being a giant asshole. Is that it? What, that was one of the ones that like you know, when it's like never meet heroes kind of thing, or you know, when you like look up to somebody,
like such a piece of shit, yeah,
and then you find out like, oh, they're a giant dickhead. Like, because I adored like Fawlty Towers and Monty Python growing up, and just learning that any of them are like a massive wanker, like, oh damn it. And I think
Eric Idle's still cool.
I'm gonna say a couple of them are alright still. And
Michael Palin, I believe it is. It's just Cleese is a prick.
Yeah.
And Luke, I have the quote here. So just while you keep in mind, folks at home, that John Cleese is going to be making a show about cancel culture being bad. And like, you know, the idea of people getting offended by jokes. I think the premise is it possible to make comedy without offending somebody? And the answer is yes. It's a show, it should be 5 seconds long. And it should just have like him asking someone. It's like, yeah. Anyway, here. So those who use the popular media to make unpleasant personal attacks must, as the saying goes, take their victims as they find them. If they choose to attack someone of particular sensitivity or vulnerability, they must, generally speaking, be ready to take the consequences. And that is John Cleese about him being compared to Basil Fawlty. And someone saying that, you know, he's just being a humorless dickhead. And he sued, used that as his defense, and got £11,000 and an apology.
You know, and now what that really makes somebody come across as a humorless dickhead?
It's suing someone for saying you like Basil Fawlty.
It's like you're really doubling down and proving the point there, John Cleese.
But keep in mind, this quote here is a perfect encapsulation of the exact thing he's like trying to discover. Like, why are people getting? It's like, if they choose to attack someone of particular sensitive or vulnerable, they must be ready to accept the consequence. Like, yeah, if you make a shit joke at the expense of a minority or like, a disenfranchised person, be ready to accept the consequence. People say that shit is not funny or okay.
Yeah, that's the thing is I actually agree
That's a
with his
quote from
statement
him.
from like 30 years ago. Like, oh god.
Like, that's a quote from him. But now he's like rallying against it. And because he can't tell racist jokes anymore.
Maybe he can just go make friends with the guy that directed the Joker.
Maybe.
Like,
that was great.
Yeah, he turned around and stopped making hangover movies because people can't like
take a joke.
People can't take a joke anymore, and it's like, no, you just wrote a shit movie.
Says man who stopped making movies because he was criticized.
Yeah. It's like, you got offended that people thought Hangover 3 was rightly a shit movie.
It wasn't funny.
No. And then he's like, well, people just... you can't make a joke anymore. I'm out. Yeah. I'm not making comedies. It's like, right.
He just looks over at, like, Always Sunny in Philadelphia getting his, like, 7th Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Program and Writing.
Where just, like, every single episode is them just being
the first episode is the gang gets racist, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it's what, 14th season? 15th season
currently making 15th now or something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Longest running sitcom in more like, single running sitcom in the world now. And it's
like, Lucas, is it possible to make a joke? Is it possible to make comedy in this world? And this is one of those things where I know someone's going to complain about this or someone's getting mad. So I need to explain, like, I've thought about this, which is why I wanted to mention it, because I theorize, I like workshops and explanation in my head. So comedy at its core is about subversion of expectations. It's a setup and then a swerve. There can be more to a joke, but at its core, that is what a joke is. And a good example of that, just like, knock knock joke. Knock knock, who's there? Something like, it's a setup and then you swerve away from it.
Not gonna lie, I'm really disappointed you didn't have a knock knock joke ready for me there.
Okay, knock knock.
Who's there?
Let us.
Let us who?
Let us in. It's cold outside.
See, I thought you were going to subvert my expectations. We always tell that joke.
Joke to sync up video jokes. But that's essentially what a joke is. And the beautiful thing about comedy and jokes is that you can then build upon those expectations. For example, why did the chicken cross the road?
I don't know, Carl. Why did
it to get to the other side? And that's a joke because it's relying on your expectations of a joke saying something unexpected. And because I'm saying the thing that you do expect, it's unexpected in that way. So that's a joke where you're swerving against the swerve.
Yeah, it's like the double bluff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the double, and that's the beautiful thing about comedy, right? And they are two of the most basic jokes to exist. They're the two most basic joke formats. And they're the things like, kids learn that. Kids learn those, and they maybe don't know why it's funny, but it's like, it's building upon that original thing, and you can keep going, and keep going, and keep going. And that's the beautiful thing about comedy. It's constantly evolving, constantly building, is in a constant state of flux and new creation.
Yeah, and like, take that simple example of the chicken crossing the road. It's like, now you've set the expectation for the double bluff. So you could go for like the triple bluff.
Yeah, you can, yeah. So like, why did the dinosaur cross the road?
I don't know, Carl, why did?
Because chickens hadn't been invented yet. And that's another swerve that also relies on pre-existing knowledge of the original joke. And again, we're building more layers upon this. And that's why comedy is such a beautiful thing. It's why I love it so much, because comedy is endlessly evolving. And the easiest way to see how much comedy has evolved is to look at memes. And if you think, you can look at some memes and they require like several layers of understanding to get the joke being made. And you can get some like meme jokes in like that. You can look at the image and laugh. And everyone listening to this has no doubt had the thing of someone showed you a meme, you will burst out laughing and you don't know why you find it funny because it's so stupid. But and if you actually broke down that meme, it requires like so many layers of understanding before, like, so someone who that doesn't have the knowledge you do, explaining why that joke is funny is almost impossible.
Like if an alien just came down with complete no knowledge, but they could speak English to you or whatever language.
Like they would have no understanding. Even like, someone in your friend group who just doesn't have the same interests as you. I use the example of LimeWire Simpsons jokes, which use the context of Simpsons to make jokes about LimeWire.
Okay.
And an example of that, one of the memes it's like Milhouse crawling out of Joe the Smelly Fort. In that one episode, it's like, like there's some .exes in there, and then just home with a LimeWire face. No, there aren't. And that requires you to, one, have watched The Simpsons, understand the reference to that scene, have used LimeWire, know what that's a reference. Like, that's the thing, like, that's 5 different things already. And then understanding the basic format of a meme.
Yeah.
And then you move back to, like, just really, racist jokes that rely on stereotypical humor. What's the swerve there, Lucas? There isn't one. There's no swerve because we know what the punchline is.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When comedians, like, they say they can't make these jokes without offending people, it's like, most of the time, I'd argue, 90% of people, they're not offended by it. They just don't think it's funny. Because you're not telling us a funny joke. You're not telling a joke.
You're just being offensive to be offensive.
Yeah, a joke is supposed to be surprising. And if you're just relying on a tired stereotype that we all are aware of, where's the joke? And I don't get why, like, professional comedians who do this, they don't understand that. I'm like, I'm not a comedian. I'm not even funny. And I know this. And I've studied this extensively because it fascinates me.
Yeah, and
kids get this. Kids understand that jokes aren't funny if you know the punchline. Like, how many times have you told a joke to someone, they just say the punchline out loud? And they don't laugh because they know the joke. And you extrapolate that to, like, a comedian on stage, telling jokes about, like, trans people or what have you. Like when Ricky Gervais was making attack helicopter jokks on stage about trans people, it's like, so what's your unique observation here? Millionaire comedian paid to make these jokes, the same one we've seen repeated online ad nauseum for 5 years. You're the comedian, make a funny joke, make an original observation.
You just took an old offensive joke from the internet
and
regurgitated it. Yeah. Like, cool. And like, I think I've mentioned it before on, like, streams or podcasts or wherever we make content of just, like, whenever someone tells, like, those awful racist, sexist, homophobic jokes or whatever it is,
ask them why they find it funny.
Yeah, ask them what the joke is. Like, just say, like, like, I don't get it. Like, just
like, yeah, it's like blonde jokes. Like, imagine if a comedian went on stage and started saying blonde jokes or Englishman, Irishman, and Scotsman jokes.
I forgot blonde jokes were even a thing. It's been that long since I've heard one. Like, forgot they existed.
But imagine you went to see a comedian and he went on stage and he said, okay, an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman walk into a bar. You'd be like, unless this is an incredible swerve away from what this is, the joke is that the Irishman's stupid. We know that. We're all aware of this. Why are you not making a new joke?
It's like, oh, the Englishman's probably a prick, the Irishman's stupid, the Scotsman is probably angry. It's like, why using these horrible, tired stereotypes?
Because the stereotype, and even if you, like, approach it from the perspective of, like, you're not offended because it's saying Irish people are stupid, even though you probably should be because, it's a harmful stereotype. But let's just say you want to approach it like, it's not funny because I know the punchline. We've all heard that joke. Tell me something. I'm paying you money to entertain me with new jokes.
And that's the thing is,
make a new joke.
If you opened up with that punchline, like, with that setup, like, a better punchline at this point in time would just be like, they all had a pint.
No, the subversion, isn't it?
Subversion of expectations, yeah.
And that's what you can do. It's like Englishman, Irishman, and Scotsman walk into a bar. Barman says, is this some kind of joke?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you can do, like, inversions of that. And then, like, some comedians have done that, and I've seen comedians do it in the past. I've seen comedians, like, tell old, bad jokes, but then you subvert the punchline, like, you make it to an anti-joke.
Yeah.
And at the same time, sometimes they'll tell, like, if the comedian's known for that, sometimes they'll tell the actual joke with a punchline. Like, Peter Kay does that a lot. Like, Peter Kay often opens his show with, like, old jokes that everybody knows. But then he'll, like, usually throw in one right towards the end where it's, like, one he wrote that's actually, like, somewhat clever. It's not one people have heard before. And then that's when it throws people off because he does the audience recall thing. If he sells the joke, the audience says the punchline. And then he'll tell a joke where the audience doesn't know the punchline, and that's the joke. It's a meta commentary on the idea of comedy, like, building over time and being, like, a communal thing.
And that's probably why, like, a lot of comedy has gotten so meta. Because,
because it's the next step.
With the creation of, like, the internet where everybody's, like, content is more readily accessible and, like, like, it's a lot easier to find every joke that's been made in the past 20 years now than it was 40 years ago.
You can take, like, old jokes and then, like, just reinvent them or, like, remix them, and then just, like, that's the whole point. It's like, it's remix culture. And I just don't understand how, like, professional comedians don't see it's like the whole point is to keep making the new thing.
Yeah.
Just make the new thing. And it's baffling that it's even a conversation that people have to have of like, oh, you can't tell jokes. Like, well, you shouldn't be telling the same joke anyway. It's your fucking job to write new stuff.
Why are you annoyed that you can't tell the same joke for your entire life?
If you want to coast off the same thing, start a band. And even then, people, if a band just plays the same song over and over again, people are gonna get picked. Like, people like play something different at the very least.
Yeah.
And it's like there's like a meta joke about that from I think it's Michael McIntyre, where he's talked about. Like, I've been at shows before, and people ask me to tell old jokes. Like Joe, he does Q&A at the end, and he said he did one once where he tells a joke about waiting for a bus, where he like basically became a human bus, and it's like it's not important to know the joke, but he was at a show, a guy asked him in a question, you have a joke about waiting for a bus, right? He goes, yes. He goes, can you tell that joke? And Michael McIntyre's like meta commentary about this joke. He's like, well, he explained to the guy, well, if you know the joke and you like the joke, remember me telling the joke. And then you'll have the joke. Anyways, anyone got any more questions? The guy raised his hand again. And Michael McIntyre's like, okay. Any questions? Well, have you ever been waiting for a bus and then it didn't turn up? And he's like, oh, and it's like, he turned that into its own thing. That's a good comedian is able to do that. They're able to even turn something like a interaction that mundane into a joke. And that was like, a conversation he had whilst telling a joke. And that's a joke about not wanting to tell another joke again. And he got to reuse the same joke. But then you've got comedians saying, why can't I just make fun of trans people? Like, you can. Do it in an interesting way. Do it in a way where people don't know the punchline. And
well, I mean, I would argue just don't do it.
Well, that's the thing.
But
if you're going to do it in a way where we don't know the punchline. And that's the thing. I've not really seen any comedian do that where I don't know what they're going to say. They're just going to, say the same trot out the same tired talking points that I've heard a dozen times already. Are you going to say anything new or interesting? So the idea of comedy is to like provoke thought. It's like poke at ideas.
But no, Karl, I just want to tell like the same racist jokes that I told 50 years ago.
Yeah. And that's just like my take, and I hope that I was at least somewhat what's the word now? Loquacious while explaining it. I hope people understood what I was trying to say and the point I was making, because it is something that I've seen talked about a lot, but I've never seen anyone break down just why people often say like they're not funny, but they don't break down why they're not funny. So I want you to do that.
That's fair, yeah.
And you've probably seen that a lot of you. It's like, they can't tell. It's not that the people don't like the jokes. It's not that people are offended by it. It's like, you're just not funny. But then no one ever says why they're not funny. So I thought about that prior to his podcast for a very long time while I was jogging to try and get that explanation in my head and the examples that I had. And you know what, Lucas? To end on, have you got any bad jokes? Do you have any bad jokes?
I have a go-to bad joke.
Go on, tell me your go-to bad joke.
What do you call it when Batman leaves church early?
I don't know. What do you call it when Batman leaves church early?
Christian Bale.
That's not bad. What do you call a deer with no eyes?
No idea.
Oh, you know that one. Okay. What do you call a deer with no eyes and no legs?
Forgotten that one.
Well, still no idea? What do you call a deer with no eyes, no legs, chewing on a razor blade? Still no bloody idea. What do you call a man who can swim without the use of his arms or legs? Clever dick. What do you call a man who can swim without the use of his arms, legs, or his penis? Smart ass. What do you call a man with a shovel in his head? Doug. What do you call a man without a shovel in his head? Douglas. What do you call a man with paper pants? Russell.
Thing is, I've heard all of these jokes, and I'm like far away from knowing the punchline.
Yeah. And that's why you got then part of comedy is like try to get people before they do it. It's like I love them. I love them so much. So have you heard the book How to Train Tigers by Claude Balls? What about the other one? My Life as a Russian with Three Testicles by Huzhina Kabalikov. I love them. I love them all. That's the thing. I have hundreds of bad jokes, lots of them loaded in my head. Because that's it. Even if you tell a bad joke, you tell enough of them, and that's the subversion. The subversion is like that. I have like 20 of these locked and ready to go, and you're gonna laugh at one of them because I guarantee that when I tell that entire spiel, there's gonna be one that people haven't heard.
Well, that's like Tim Vine in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah, you might have heard the punchline to a couple, not all of them.
Fast fire real bad jokes just as quickly as possible for like an hour.
Yeah.
And by the time you like don't find one funny, he's already told another one that you do find funny.
Yeah, and I adore that like that line of joke telling. I love one-liner jokes. Yeah. So that's why I respect Jimmy Carr so much, because he's written what I believe is the world's shortest joke, which is 2 words: "Venison's dear."
That's not bad. It's not bad.
2-word joke. 2-word joke.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Anyway, Lucas, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah. I mean, I guess like if you're watching live now, Karl's going to play some Hades, and then I'm going to play over on my Twitch, like Legend of Kanto. I'm going to play in Destiny, as I mentioned, Destiny 2 specifically. And then yeah, you can just check me out on YouTube, Twitch, doing gaming stuff at Legend of Kanto.
Yeah, and for me, just Google my name. You'll find something that I've been involved with, no doubt.
And also, send any questions you've got for QA episodes.
Oh yeah, shit.
We keep forgetting to mention that, but yeah, send questions you've got for when we do QA episodes to carlscornerqa@gmail.com. And if like you're listening to this on a podcast service, the link should be in the description anyway.
Yeah, we'll have to. Is there enough for us to do one of them soon?
I will have to double check.
Have a look. See, maybe we can do it Friday.
Yeah,
you can do that, and then yeah, perfect.